Namaskar to all of you and welcome to our next session on the Yogic life. Today, before we proceed further with our Karapatra, I wanted to talk a few things about the Srishti, how the process of Srishti works. Right? We saw how the cosmic mind has come about from the we had the Nirguna Purusha, and then when Purusha gave Anumati, then Prakriti started impacting the Purusha, and we saw how the cosmic mind got created, right? The Mahat Tattva, Aham Tattva, and the Chitta, right? So if we represent this in the form of a clock, you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if we represent this in the form of a chakra, right, in the form of a clock, so we have two processes over here. One is called as the sanchara. The movement from the subtle to the crude is called as the sanchara movement. That is from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. I'll just explain to you what it is. And then the movement from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. That process is called as the prati sanchara. Right? Sanchara and prati sanchara. So sanchara from the crude to from the subtle to the crude, and the prati sanchara is from the crude to the subtle. Right? The sanchara, when we say sanchara, I said it's the movement from the subtle to the crude. So the at the nucleus we have the Purushottama, we have the Purusha at the nucleus. The macrocosmic nucleus, we have Purushottama, and the Kendra Tiga Shakti. The Kendra Tiga Shakti. The Kendra Tiga Shakti means the Shakti which is moving from the subtle to the crude. That process is called as the sanchara process. The Kendra Tiga Shakti helps in that movement from the subtle to the crude. Right? The process of transformation of metamorphosis of the singular self, that is the Purusha, into various factors is called as the sanchara. Right? So we are going to see how the Purusha, the Purushottama, he gets transformed into the cosmic mind comprising of the Mahat Tattva, Aham Tattva, and the Chitta, and then how the Pancha Bhutas get created. The cosmic mind gets created from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then the Pancha Bhutas get created from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. That is Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, and Prithvi. Right? So, this is an analytical movement of the infinite macrocosmic entity, which is getting transformed into innumerable finite entities. So from one it becomes many. Right? I've been telling that ekoham bahushyam. Right? I'm one. The Purusha makes a sankalpa that I'm one and I want to become many. Right? When he does this sankalpa, then the Prakriti starts acting on him, and the Kendra Tiga Shakti helps in moving from the subtle to the crude, and how the singular entity becomes many. Right? So that is the process of the sanchara from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Then the prati sanchara. The prati sanchara is from 6 o'clock, from here to this one. This is actually the sanchara, and this is actually the prati sanchara. So in the prati sanchara, we have the Kendra Nuga Shakti, the Shakti which is going towards the Kendra. Kendra Tiga means the Shakti which is going away from the Kendra. Kendra Nuga means the Shakti which is going towards the Kendra. The Kendra Tiga Shakti of the nucleus of the Purushottama, which helps in moving from the crude to the subtle. Right? That process is called as the prati sanchara. The supreme entity is the prime cause of this universe, which is comprising of diverse names and forms, and this supreme entity is the satta, is the sakshi satta, is the witnessing entity, and is the multiple of all these multiplicities. So whatever we are seeing in this universe is nothing but this Purusha. the movement from these multiplicities towards the supreme multiple is the process of pratisanchara. So we are many, and how we just go into that single entity, that is the process of pratisanchara. And this pratisanchara process is a center seeking process, is introversial in character. So it is internal, right? It is a movement from the crude towards the subtle, and having its ending point in that Purushottama. Right? So this is the process of the Pratisanchara, Sanchara and Pratisanchara. So this Purushottama is at the center, is a witnessing entity. He is at the center. He is a Sakshi Satta. He is the Purusha or the Chiti Shakti or the pure consciousness. Right? He gets activated due to Prakriti. Right? So this kriya that is happening in this in the form of this Jagat, this action, it results only when Prakriti influences the Purusha. Right? So actually there are, when we say Brahma, there are two factors, Purusha and Prakriti. Right? Though they are theoretically they are dual, right? But actually speaking, they're singular in spirit, right? Like the two sides of a coin. Their collective body is like that of a fire and its burning capacity. How we cannot separate the burning capacity from the fire? They're like singular entity. Like that, Purusha and Prakriti are singular. Right? One cannot think of fire without its special burning capacity, right? In the same way, one cannot think of Purusha without Prakriti, right? And that collective body is called as Brahma. So Prakriti may be defined as an attribute or a guna of Purusha. So Prakriti has three gunas: Sattva guna, Rajo guna and Tamo guna. So in the Nirguna Avastha, what happens? There is no expressed activity of Prakriti. That is, the Prakriti is there, but she's kind of in a dormancy. Her function is there, right? What happens in the Nirguna Avastha is that the gunas of the Prakriti, they from Sattva guna they get converted into Rajo guna into Tamo guna into Sattva guna. They just keep going one into another, and there is kind of a complete balance of these gunas. There is no imbalance in the gunas. There is complete balance in the gunas. Therefore, we don't see the Srishti. So there is complete balance. One is transforming to the other, and there is complete balance. There is no express world at that point in time. So there, Purusha remains Nirguna, objectless, right? So Prakriti is the collective name of three principles: the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, right? So in the Nirguna Avastha, Prakriti is in dormant state, so she cannot manifest herself. But even though her, as I was saying, her gunas, they just transform from Sattva to Rajas to Tamas to Rajas. In this way, it just keeps going in a circle, and there's complete balance, right? But what happens is that when the Purusha gives Anumati, then there is an internal clash within these three principles. There's a clash and cohesion of these three principles of Prakriti: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And then what happens, from one of the points in the vertices, they become like a triangle of forces, and from one of the vertices, at the central point of the triangle of the forces is Purushottama, right? The Purushottama or the Shiva. He's at the center, but from one of the vertices of the triangle of forces, what happens is that because of the internal clash and cohesion, right? So from one of the forces, one of the vertices of the triangle, this Srishti starts emanating, right? So the movement which starts from the Purushottama at the center, and it's going from the subtle to the crude, that is an exterior movement, right? It is undergoing a change from subtle to the crude. So Purusha is subtle, he's very subtle, and from that slowly the crude universe is coming. So from Purusha we have the cosmic mind. Cosmic mind is subtle, but is not as subtle as the Purusha, right? So then from that we get the Panchabhutas. The Panchabhutas are not as subtle as the mind. Panchabhutas, we can actually, they have the Tanmatras, so we can perceive the Panchabhutas. So this movement, this Sanchara movement, so at 1 o'clock, the Mahat Tattva of the cosmic mind, the Sattva Guna is the cause of this pure I feeling, right? Mahat Tattva is nothing but the I feeling, and this sattva guna's impact on the purusha is the cause of this pure I feeling, and this is the first bondage of the purusha, right? So far purusha was bandhana rahitam. At the nirguna state he did not have any bandhan, he did not have any bondage. But when the sattva guna impacts the purusha, then that is the first bondage of purusha because of his sattva guna of prakriti. Therefore this I feeling comes. Then at 2 o'clock the rajoguna of prakriti impacts the mahat tattva, and then that activates the I, right? The doer I. It transforms the I, the I feeling into the doer I, and that is called as the aham tattva. And then at 3 o'clock what happens? The tamoguna of prakriti influences the aham tattva, and we get this chitta. That is the chitta, that is actually the done I, right? At 3 o'clock we have this chitta, that is a done I, and by 3 o'clock the cosmic mind is created. From 1 to 3 cosmic mind is created, and even after the cosmic mind is created this process of sanchana keeps continuing, right? So at 3 o'clock we saw the dominance of the tamoguna, right? So then what happens is from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock the tamoguna keeps increasing, the tamoguna of the prakriti keeps increasing, like how the purushottama was transformed into mahat tattva, and from mahat tattva into aham tattva, and aham tattva into chitta, due to the influence of one or the other aspect of the guna of prakriti. So then further this tamoguna of prakriti influences the chitta. The chitta comes under the influence of the tamoguna of the prakriti, and the chitta becomes more and more cruder, and then from there emerges the akasha tattva. From this chitta is transformed into akasha tattva, right? So from 4 o'clock, right, akasha tattva comes, and then when the pressure and domination of tamoguna continues to increase, then because of this pressure there is a further crudification, right? There's a further crudification, and there is a gradual crudification. There is gradually the other 4 factors, the other bhutas. From akasha tattva then we get the vayu tattva, from vayu tattva we get the agni tattva, and then from the agni tattva we get the jala tattva, and then from there we get the prithvi tattva, right? Prithvi tattva is the crudest, right? These panchabhutas are all crude because they have the tanmatras. Each of them, akasha has a shabda tanmatra, and vayu has the shabda and sparsha, agni has shabda sparsha rupam, jalam has shabda sparsha rupa rasa, prithvi has shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha. So these are all having tanmatras, therefore these are all perceivable, right? The kshiti tattva or the prithvi, the solid factor, is the crudest manifestation of the cosmic chitta, right? So when the kshiti tattva is created, then the tamoguna of the prakriti on the cosmic chitta, it reaches the maximum capacity. It reaches the maximum capacity because beyond that there can be no other bhuta that is coming out. It has reached the maximum capacity. But even then, when the tamoguna, right, the pressure of the tamoguna on the panchabhuta, right, the pressure of tamoguna on the panchabhuta is called as the balam. It's called as the balam, and because of this balam, like 2 forces develop, right? 2 shaktis come out. One is the kendra tiga shakti, and the other is the kendra nuga shakti. Kendra tiga shakti is the exterior force, and the kendra nuga shakti is the interior force. And this kendra tiga shakti is the one that takes it takes it away from the nucleus, and the kendra nuga shakti is the interior force, right? It actually maintains the structural solidity of that kshiti tattva. The kshiti tattva structural solidity is maintained, but the kendra tiga shakti, right, it actually splits up that object into thousands, into many pieces, right? So this collective of this kendra nuga and kendra tiga shakti is called as prana, right? Prana. So this kshiti tattva has these 2 forces, the kendra nuga and the kendra tiga shakti, which gets emerged because of the influence of the tamoguna. And these 2 shaktis, kendra nuga and kendra tiga shakti, together is called as the prana or energy. So the Kshiti Tattva actually has this prana or this energy, right? It has these two Shaktis. These two Shaktis together are called as the prana. So in the prana, when there is a further internal clash, then what happens? One of the Shaktis becomes dominating. Either the Kendra Nuga Shakti becomes dominating or the Kendra Tiga Shakti becomes dominating. So if the Kendra Nuga Shakti dominates, so from this Kshiti Tattva, a nucleus is formed and life emerges. From this Kshiti Tattva, life emerges, right? So then when the life emerges, then what happens? A solid structure is created, and so the solid structure is created, and from there slowly the life evolves, right? Slowly the life progresses. So we had the single cell structure, then slowly they got developed into multicellular organisms, then slowly plants, then animals, and then finally at 10 o'clock we have the human being. So we can see that from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, when the life emerged from the prana, right? When the life emerged, then what happens? That is how, when will the life emerge? The life will emerge only when there is a congenial atmosphere. The Panchabhutas are all in proper proportions, then the life emerges. So gradually the life progresses. We had single cell organisms, plants, animals, and then the human beings, right? There's a gradual progression. So that is when the Kendra Nuga Shakti is dominant, right? But if the Kendra Tiga Shakti, which is a Shakti which takes it away from the nucleus, that Shakti, if that Shakti becomes dominant, at 6 o'clock, when the Kshiti Tattva has these two forces, Kendra Nuga and Kendra Tiga Shakti, this Kendra Tiga Shakti is actually a Shakti which is actually going to take you towards the nucleus here. Because what happens is, if there is an imbalance in the Panchabhutas are all in not proper proportion, then the life will not emerge. That time what happens is that solid structure, that Kshiti Tattva, gets Jadaspota. It bursts and it's divided into many pieces, and those pieces all go back to the relevant Panchabhutas. They go back to the relevant Panchabhutas. So at 6 o'clock we have these two Shaktis. So either there will be a Jadaspota if there is the congenial environment is not there, atmosphere is not there in the Panchabhutas, then there will be a Jadaspota, and that Kshiti Tattva divides into many pieces and they go back to the relevant Panchabhutas, right? They can only go back to the Panchabhutas. They cannot go beyond Panchabhutas. If they go beyond the Panchabhutas, that means it is the cosmic projection is getting reversed. That means the Srishti is getting reversed. So that doesn't happen. The Srishti is always there. The cosmic mind is always there. And when there is Jadaspota, the solid structure goes back to the relevant Panchabhutas, right? So when there is a congenial environment, then all the fundamental bhutas, when the Panchabhutas excuse me, they are available in the requisite quantity, then what happens is that life gets an expression only under such a condition. So for manifestation of life, there must be a congenial atmosphere in the Panchabhutas. That is a must, right? So this resultant Kendra Nuga Shakti helps in creation of the life, and under a congenial environment, and that is actually known as the prana or vital energy, right? In Sanskritam, prana is always in plural, right? So we say pancha pranaha. So actually here here actually we are saying there are 10 vayus. There are 10 vayus, 5 internal vayus and 5 external vayus, like prana, apana, samana, udana, vyana, and then there are naga, kurma, krikara, devadatta, dhananjaya. There are actually there are 10 vayus. 10 vayus, they are called as the dasha pranaha, right? They're 10, they're pranaha. Together they're called as pranaha, but these are 10 vayus, right? So this manifestation of the prana of this life is actually dependent on these two conditions, right? First is what are the two conditions when which the life emerges? Is that this Kendra Nuga Shakti should be dominant, and there must be congenial environment in the pancha bhutas, right? So if the Kendranuga Shakti is dominant, then what happens, sometimes even if the Kendranuga Shakti is dominant, is the winning factor, even then the Kshiti Tattva can be split up into innumerable subtler particles if there is no congenial environment in the Panchabhutas. So the congenial environment in the Panchabhutas is a must. Only then there is an expression of that vital energy. So in the absence of proper congenial environment of the bhutas, then there is no expression of life. So what happens is that when there is no congenial environment, that is when this jadaspota will happen, because the pressure of tamoguna is increasing, right? So because of that, what happens is that the Kshiti Tattva just bursts open. It just, because of the increased pressure of the tamoguna, it just bursts open, and there is a structural dissociation, and that is actually called as the jadaspota, right? So so that is when the dissociation happens, when the Panchabhutas are not in proper proportions, right? So when the jadaspota occurs, then what happens, all the component factors of that physical structure, the component bhutas of that physical structure, they get dissociated into the relevant bhutas. They go to the akasha, they go to vayu, they go to agni, they go to jalam, and they go to prithvi. Because they become so small, they just go back to the relevant bhutas. And this process of this jadaspota, going from 6 o'clock back to the bhutas, is called as the negative sanchara. So it is actually, it's not a sanchara, it is a reverse sanchara. This process of this negative sanchara, so they go back to the relevant bhutas, but they cannot go beyond the akasha tattva, right? Because if they go beyond the akasha tattva, that means aham tattva is withdrawing the thought projection, right? It's this withdrawal of the cosmic eye. It means it's a suspension of the cosmic mind. It is a suspension of the creation, right? That doesn't happen. So this dissociation into the factors, it only goes up to the akasha tattva, not beyond that, right? So in this way, this journey of evolution continues. So when the Kendranuga Shakti is dominant, then what happens is that life emerges, and slowly there is evolution. Slowly there is a further development in life, and all these different beings get created, right? And in this process, it's a movement from the crude to the subtle, right? As we are going up, it is actually movement to the crude to the subtle. The sattva guna gets dominating in this process, and at 10 o'clock, right? At 10 o'clock we have the human beings, and from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock there is an increase in sattva guna. At that point in time, what happens is that when you engage in sadhana, as you engage in sadhana, you're decreasing the distance from that nucleus. You're slowly going from the 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. As you engage in this yogic life, you're increasing the sattva guna by having a proper ahara, by having proper diet, and also by engaging in sadhana, your mind becomes more and more subtle, right? It becomes more and more subtle, and that is how we are able to go towards that kendra. We are able to decrease the distance towards the kendra. So this whole Srishti Chakra, there is a clash and cohesion of the different forces, right? So and what happens is that I talked about how the life emerges, right? So when the life emerges, what happens is that there is a clash. The physical the physical structure, the Kshiti Tattva, right? It actually gets powdered down. It gets powdered down, and it gets transformed into subtler factors, subtler than the Panchabhutas. That is when the unit mind emerges, right? The unit mind is not created. It is already there. The cosmic mind, it is only a part of the cosmic mind, right? It is essentially the cosmic mind is the one that is getting converted into the Panchabhutas, and then from the Panchabhutas the unit mind emerges, right? And that unit mind gets associated with that life, right? That unit mind gets associated with that life, and right, it is emerging due to the physical clash of the different bhutas, and this unit mind is nothing but is a part of the cosmic mind. The unit mind has no difference than it is no different than the cosmic mind. It has the same, essentially the same properties as the cosmic mind, right? The intellectual, the unit mind actually controls the physical activities of that unit structure. So when the life emerges, there is also a unit mind, and that unit mind controls the activities of that physical structure. And the matter is the crudest manifestation of chitta. The chitti tattva is the crudest manifestation of chitta. And what is chitta? Chitta is nothing but a transformed form of the cosmic consciousness. And the two subtler manifestations of Purusha, they are the Mahat Tattva and Aham Tattva, right? So in the earlier beings, initially when the beings were developed in the single-celled organisms, in that these two subtler manifestations, the Mahat Tattva and Aham Tattva, they are in dormant stage. And the earliest beings, they have only Chitta. So the Chitta is pre-designed, and so they operate according to the Chitta, right? So the mind, essentially the mind, the unit mind has only Chitta in the earlier stages, right? So the mind of the underdeveloped creatures and plants, majority of the portion is nothing but Chitta. The ego is not there in the primary stage of the mental creation. So right, so they operate according to the predesigned structure. So in the later, as the life progresses, then there is an expression of ego. Then the Aham Tattva comes into picture, and then the pure I feeling also gets expressed, right? Then Aham Tattva and Mahat Tattva, they are the subtler stages of the mind, right? So then with this advanced mind, right, then the pranas, the pranaha, they get properly controlled, right? The prana and the mind in the body, it works in a very collaborated manner, right? And they work in a collaborated manner, and therefore the structural solidity, the structural solidarity, the structural solidarity is properly maintained in this process of the pratisanchara, right? So so that is how this out of matter, this beings get created in the process of pratisanchara. And at 10 o'clock, when you get this life, this human life, we have an advanced mind, which having all the two subtler manifestations of the cosmic consciousness, the Mahat Tattva and the Aham Tattva, and also we also have the Chitta, right? So we have all the three components, they are all fully developed, and therefore we have every human being, we have an advanced mind, and that mind that we have is an independent mind compared to other beings. This is an independent mind. We have the Swatantriyam, so we have a choice between leading an animal life or leading a human life and moving towards that kendra. We have a choice, and that choice is not available to the other beings. It's not available to the other beings. That Swatantra Ichcha comes at 10 o'clock. It comes at 10 o'clock, and that is why we have a choice to go from 10 to 12. But if we keep engaging in the Pashu Jivanam, then we can become worse than animals. So then what happens? We will fall down from the 10 o'clock, and we can go back. We can even become a stone. We can become a plant, or we can become an animal. Depending on the samskaras, we can become a plant, we can become an animal, we can become a single-celled organism, or we can become a stone. Right? If you become a stone, then what happens is that we are going to take millions of years to go from the stone to human being, and then again we'll be falling in this chakra of Janma and Marana, right? So that means it's like an endless vicious cycle, right? If you're just continuing in the Pashu Jivanam, it's a vicious cycle. You keep going Marana, and therefore you keep getting Sukha, Dukkha, Sukha, Dukkha, Sukha, Dukkha, Sukha, Dukkha. That is endless, right? But when you come to this human being stage, here you have an option, right? Whether you want to go up, whether you want to climb, or you want to go down, right? So you have an option to climb up. When you utilize that option, then what happens is you engage in sadhana. When you engage in meditation, then your mind elevates, your mind becomes more and more and more and more subtle. When it becomes more and more and subtle, then there comes a point when the mind gets completely dissolved, and what remains is only the Purusha. What remains is the Shuddha Purusha. That is what remains. So this is how the process of Srishti actually works, and this is what we have been reading in What Is This World, right? This is what we've been reading. We're talking about the cosmic mind, and we also talked about the we started talking about the Panchabhutas. That is what we are going to continue, and I thought is the right time for us to get some idea about what the Srishti Chakra is. Obviously we'll be reading a lot about this later on, but just just a parichaya, just an introduction, I thought it will be helpful. Any thoughts or comments?
Namaste Mahodaya.
Namaskaram.
Thank you for this beautiful picture, but I've got one question, Mahodaya.
Yeah.
Which I understood that the cosmic mind from Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and eventually Tamoguna excessiveness led to the further sanchara.
Yeah.
But and then, because my understanding is from subtle to crudity is what the flow is, but from 8 o'clock, right, what triggered to go from the crude to the subtle? Because if I have understood it correct, Sattva Guna is more subtler than the other guna, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that it's pushing from the crudity to the subtler aspect? At 10 o'clock, where human beings, if I understood this right, the Sattva Guna has dominated, and that's where the human beings were formed from the single-celled organism. So they say the Sattva Guna is at the highest. So what?
No, Sattva Guna is not in the highest. At the human being, Sattva Guna is there, and it can become even more advanced as you go from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Sattva Guna increases and increases, and there comes a point where you go beyond the gunas, and that is the Purusha, Nirguna Purusha.
Okay.
Okay.
But what aspect pushed it from the reverse order, right?
Yeah. So at 6 o'clock, the Tamoguna has reached its peak. Tamoguna has reached its maximum capacity when the Kshiti Tattva emerged, right? So at that point in time, the two Shaktis emerged, and when life started emerging, then in that Srishti Chakra, when the life started emerging, slowly the Sattva Guna started dominating. Sattva Guna started dominating. Slowly, as the jivas started developing, Sattva Guna gets dominated and dominated and dominated. So at the human being state, Sattva Guna is at the peak, and has increased. I won't say peak; it has increased. And as the Sattva Guna keeps increasing, you're inching more and more towards the subtle.
Subtle. Okay.
Yeah. This is how the Srishti Chakra works, right? So it is not like there's no question of why. I mean, there is no in the sense why Sattva Guna is dominating is because the Tamo Guna has reached its peak, and now when the life emerged, then automatically the Sattva Guna started increasing.
Okay. So the balance. Got it.
Yeah. Right, because from Sattva, you started from Sattva to Rajo, Rajo to Tamo, and Tamo has reached its peak, then automatically Sattva emerges.
Right.
Initially, when there was no Srishti, when Prakriti was there, how her cycle of forces, how they operated was that Sattva got converted to Rajo, Rajo got converted into Tamo Guna got converted into Sattva. This is how her cycle was, right? In the Prati Sanchara, Sattva Guna impacted Purusha, you got Mahat Tattva, and then Rajo Guna impacted the Mahat Tattva, you got the Aham Tattva. So from Sattva to Rajo to Tamo you gone, and Tamo Guna reached its peak at 6 o'clock, then automatically Sattva Guna. That is the cycle of the Prakriti.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is how I understand. If there's anything more, I'll let you know.
Sure, Mahodaya.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So with this background, I think now you'll be able to understand this Karapatra very well, right? Because now you got a complete picture of how this is all working, right? The cosmic mind, the Panchabhutas, and then the Jadaspota, and then how the life emerges, slowly from single-celled organisms up to the human beings, and from from 10 o'clock how we can go to 12 o'clock. So we'll be always be talking about moving from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. That is what we always be talking about. So what does that mean? That moving from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock means you're going from the crude to making your mind more and more subtle, making it more and more subtle by engaging in the yogic life. You're making your mind subtle. When you make your mind subtle, what happens is, what is the benefit of this yogic life, right? So even though, you know, every time we talk to people is, oh my God, yogic life is so difficult. It's like, you know, there's so many things, too many requirements, and it's difficult. You know, sometimes people get, you know, they just get bogged. No, it's not for me. You know, I've heard people saying that, you know, sometimes people think that, oh, this is very difficult. It's not for me. It is for somebody else, not for me. That's what people think. But actually, when you actually engage in it, you will just realize how beautiful it is, and it just makes your life so much easier. It makes your life so much easier. It is like no hassles, right? You're everything that you're by implementing all this, you're making your life more and more simple. You're making your life more and more simple. Instead of like, you know, complicated cooking and complicated things, you're making your life simple. And then again, by engaging in all these different abhyasas, right, by which you are making your mind more and more subtle, then the mind doesn't get affected by things around you, right? Whatever it may be around you, even if the sky is falling down, you are like just calm, right? Nothing happens. It just makes your mind like solid, rock solid, right? So whatever the circumstances around you, you don't get bothered by it, like whatever may be it, right? Your mind is not completely perturbed, right? You know, you're able to get a handle over yourself. That is one of the biggest advantage. You know, like sometimes I've seen, right? Like I'm sure all of us have experienced, like when such a situation comes in a life which is very, very, you know, something where you lost your dear one, or you know, maybe you lost a job, or maybe somebody you know, passed away, then people just completely lose their balance. They're so attached, and they're just so you know, they're just not able to bear the loss, right? But when you engage in yogic life, you'll be able to see what is the reality of everything, and your mind doesn't get perturbed, whatever it may be. You know, right? I've heard some people, they say they've lost their child, and that's why they're not able to have a handle on them. I understand it's very difficult to lose a child or lose a parent, but even then, right, how to keep your calm and how to continue with your life, right? Because you know the truth. You know the truth. What is this life? What is the goal of this life? You know, you understand all of that. So then you know how to handle your life, to get that you know, that balance in your mind, right? To get that equanimity in your mind, not to get you know, too much boggled down by your situation, right? That kind of thing you will get by engaging in this yogic life. And that is my experience, and that is my experience. You will not able to understand this unless you engage in it. So you have to engage in it, right? So you have to take this as a challenge and say, I want to engage in this, and I want to see what is it, right? So after engaging for 1 year, if you feel that, you know, this is all waste of effort, then obviously you can actually get out of it. But I'm 100% sure by engaging in it for 1 year, you will see so many things so positive that you would want to progress further. That I can guarantee you, right? By engaging in it for 1 year, 1 full year, see what it has got to offer. It's not like you're not going to lose your life, right? It's just 1 year. Try for 1 year fully what this has got to offer, and try to implement it in all the areas and see how it is, right? Instead of like, you know, instead of giving all sorts of excuses saying, you know, I can't do this, I have that, giving all that, right? Just give 1 year of your life for this and see what it has to offer. And if you feel that is like a waste of time, then you can always like get out of it, right? You're not going to lose anything, because whatever you've done, it's not like you're just going to lose something, right? But I'm 100% sure that by engaging in it for 1 year, you will see a lot of changes in yourself, right? Lot of changes in yourself. For that, you need to do sadhana. It is not just the ahara and asanas. You have to learn sadhana, and there is engaging in sadhana sincerely for 1 full year, and following the sattvic ahara and all those other practices that we talked about, asanas, everything. For 1 full year, when you engage in it, you will see what kind of human being you are after 1 year, and what kind of human being you were after 1 year. There will be significant difference. And I'm not going to tell you. You yourself will come and tell me. that I can guarantee you, right? But for that you need to be willing to spend that 1 full year into this to see what it has to offer, right? Unless you do that, you cannot understand what I'm saying. Okay, so with that said, like, now let's go back to our Karapatram. Right, so today we did not read much about the Karapatram because we talked about how the process of Srishti works. So now we can you all see my screen? I have to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. Chandrasekhar Modi, do you want to take from here?
Sure, God. We may begin with Vyoma or Akasha Tattva, the ethereal factor, the void or nothingness which exists beyond the supposed atmosphere of planets, etc., is Vyoma or Akasha Tattva. This void indicates nothingness, yet we call it crude because it contains Shabda, sound, Tanmatra. The scientists call it ether. This void or ether has no form or shape. It has no weight. It contains nothing, and that is why it is called void or nothingness. But sound can travel through it. Sound waves could not be formed in the absence of a medium for their transmission. It is because of this that we call the void crude. The presence of Shabda Tanmatra makes it crude. But this is the subtlest realm of the crude sphere, as it has only one factor, the sound Tanmatra. Hence, the first factor to be formed in this creation was the Shabda Tanmatra and Akasha Tattva, the ethereal factor. So this starts the manifestation of the Purusha, and the first stage of the manifestation is to become the subtlest form, from being Nirguna, Paramatma. And in the subtlest form, next to the Nirguna Paramatma, the first stage is to have the Akasha Tattva, or the one that has the sound Tanmatra. The sound Tanmatra needs Akasha may look like void or nothingness. Then one could wonder what is in it. There's nothing. There's just void. But because sound, it supports sound travels in it. We have to gather that there is a medium in it, and it's in subtlest form. Why we feel nothingness or void. And so it basically starts talking about this transformation or the manifestation. The first one is the Akasha Tattva, the sound Tanmatra. Does it about cover the?
Yes, Maurya. Yeah. So this Pratidwani, I'm going to put you on mute. I'm sorry. Okay. So over here the Akasha Tanmatra. So when the Tamoguna of Prakriti influences the Chitta, there's a continuing effect on Chitta, right? So then what happens is that there is at the cosmic mind level, there is no transmission of any Tanmatras, right? Cosmic mind is subtle, right? So when the Tamoguna begins to work on the Aham Tattva, Chitta is created. So up until Chitta, there is no Tanmatras. There is no admission of Tanmatras or transmission of Tanmatras. So when the continued force of Tamoguna exerts pressure on Chitta, then that results in the creation of the Vyoma or the Akasha Tattva, right? So so the Akasha Tattva, so then this is actually the beginning of the creation, right? So all the bhutas are within the universe, right? Not outside the universe, right? It's all happening, all of this is happening on the chitta of the cosmic mind, right? So we can say that it is a kalpana which is happening on the chitta of the cosmic mind. So it's actually happening, right? And the first bhuta that is coming out is the Akasha bhuta. Akasha bhuta allows the transmission of the Shabda Tanmatra, right? Even though Akasha is very subtle, but it allows the transmission of the Sapta Tanmatra. Okay, so moving on, Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to take the next one?
Bhagini. After taking the form of Akasha Tattva, Chitta manifested itself as Vayu. Vayu, air, is cruder than Akasha, ether. As in this, we find the presence of two Tanmatras. Air or Vayu as the Tanmatra of Shabda, sound, as well as that of Sparsha, touch. We would not be able to hear each other talk if air did not contain the Shabda Tanmatra. Ordinarily, sound waves are carried from place to place by the air. Thus, the presence of Shabda, sound Tanmatra is essential. We only feel the presence of air by touch, and so Sparsha touch Tanmatra is also present. Thus, we find two Tanmatras in Vayu, aerial factor, while in Akasha, the ethereal factor, there is only one Tanmatra. Vayu, the aerial factor, is therefore cruder than Akasha and has come into being after the ethereal factor. So now, after the form of the Akash Tattva, now the Chitta is manifesting itself into itself as Vayu. Vayu is cruder than Akasha because we find two Tanmatras in that. One is the sound Tanmatra or the Shabda Tanmatra, and the other one is Sparsh or touch Tanmatra. Touch or this Sparsh Tanmatra. So now we will not be able to hear one to each other if we do not have the Shabda Tanmatra or the sound. Similarly, the presence of Vayu can be felt only by the touch or the Sparsha Tanmatra. So that is essentially found in Vayu, and sound is found in Vayu. Since the presence of two Tanmatras are available in Vayu, we can say that Vayu is cruder than the ethereal factor or the Akash. So Vayu, the aerial factor, is cruder than the Akash, the ethereal factor. And so it has come after the ethereal factor. This paragraph says that.
Okay, Bhagini, nicely said. Yeah, that is the idea. So Vayu has two factors, the Sparsha Tanmatra and the Shabda Tanmatra. That is what this is explaining. I think this paragraph is clear. We can move on. Chandrasekhar Mahodaya, do you want to take the next one? Chandramouli Mahodaya. Chandramouli Mahodaya.
No problem. The Chitta manifested itself as Tejas Tattva or the luminous factor after Vayu Tattva, aerial factor. Fire can be seen, and so it can be said to have a shape or form. It contains Rupa Tanmatra, the vibration due to ideation producing an image or form. Otherwise, we would not be able to see it. Fire can also be felt on touch. It has therefore both Sparsha and Shabda Tanmatras. There are three Tanmatras, Rupa, Sparsha and Shabda, in the luminous factor. As it has three Tanmatras, it is cruder than Vayu and was created after Vayu, the aerial factor. Here they are trying to tell the progression from how from a single Tanmatra to multiple Tanmatras, how the progression is happening. And the next process is Tejas Tattva. So for example, here the fire is the one they are talking about. So fire can be seen, it can be felt, but one thing I couldn't understand, Mode, is the Shabda Tanmatra, right? How does fire have the Shabda Tanmatra? I couldn't understand that.
When fire burns, are you hearing the sound?
Okay, right.
Yeah, so it has a Shabda Tanmatra. That's why you're hearing the sound.
Right. Okay. So in this case, it has got all the three Tanmatras, which is the Sparsha, and the Shabda Tanmatras, and that's where it is more cruder than the previous Tanmatra, and that's what it is trying to show the progression, and it has explained the Vayu Tattva, or the Tejas Tattva, which has got three Rupa, Sparsha, and Shabda, and therefore it is more cruder than the Vayu, and it was created after the Vayu, the aerial factor.
Yeah, correct. So the Vayu, we said it has two Tanmatra, Shabda. So when the wind blows, you can hear the sound, right? And when you can feel the touch of the wind, right? So fire has three Tanmatras. You can see the fire, it has a Rupam, and you can also hear the sound from the fire, and it also we can feel the sparsha of the fire, right? So it has three Tanmatras, and therefore it is more cruder compared to the air, right? Air has two Tanmatras, but we cannot actually see the air. We can experience the air, but we cannot see it. But Agni is the first one which is having the Rupa Tanmatra, and from Agni we can start seeing the entity, right? We can start seeing the Bhuta. Okay.
Right. Mahoday, if it's okay, can I ask one more question, please?
Yeah, please.
The Akasha, right, and the space, are they both same? Because and as far as my knowledge goes, space has no sound, and that's where even to hear to the celestial objects, they use the other forms, right? The light and other things to convert that and see how they communicate. But basically, space has no sound, as far as I understand. So, is Akasha is it a
space? Even though space has no sound, but the sound can travel through space, right?
No, Mahoday. As far as I understand, it can't travel in vacuum, and space is predominantly vacuum. That's how I got it. That's where Akasha and space, is it one and the same, or is it different?
I'm thinking it is one and the same, but let me find out. I have to find out if Akasha and space. I thought it is the same. Akasha and the space are the same. The Akasha space is voidness, as you're saying. It is vacuum. This Akasha Tattva is also vacuum. That is why, if you see in the previous paragraph, we said it is Akasha Tattva is void or nothingness, right?
Correct.
Is void or nothingness which exists beyond the atmosphere of the planet, right? Even though it is void, it is called crude because it is having the Shabda Tanmatra. The sound can travel through it.
That's where I got confused more there, because if it is a vacuum, right, sound cannot travel in vacuum. I mean, at least from the science that that I am aware of, the sound cannot travel in a vacuum. And if it is predominantly vacuum, the space is predominantly vacuum, and that's what the current the knowledge says. So in which case the question arises: the Shabda Tanmatra, how did it become the part of the Akasha Tattva? In which case, what I'm inferring is Akasha Tattva could be a substratum of space and not exactly space. But it will be helpful, Mahoday, if that.
Let me find out. Yeah, Mahoday.
I think in here, when this is my thing is Akasha and space, they are really one and the same. We are. I think when you say space is predominantly a vacuum, it still can let the sound go through. But if we move away from here, all the space right around us, it's still space. It's not Akasha as sky. Where we live, my house is space. I have a pot. The pot is in space and has space. And the sound travels through that. That is, it's not Akasha as equivalent to sky. if akasha is equivalent to space, space is everywhere. It's not just up between the interstellar space. The space is there right in my house, right in my pot, right in everything. And now how do you distinguish between the space that's in a pot and the space interstellar that we are thinking of saying it's completely vacuum?
Yeah, Mahoday, to that point, right, I do agree. When we define space, right, for example, the space in the Earth's atmosphere, right, is quite different to the space in the space, outer space. For example, I can create a vacuum right here in the Earth, right?
Right.
It's possible. So even there is a space, but still there is a vacuum, and sound definitely cannot travel within vacuum for sure. So, and whatever the studies have shown, the researchers, they say like predominantly the sound cannot travel in the space, and in that space it's beyond the Earth's atmosphere or this is within the Earth's atmosphere. Yes, I do agree. Definitely, without sound, I think we both will not be able to communicate here. But
right.
Definitely, but outside this atmosphere, right? From whatever little I know, there is definitely the sound. There is vacuum and sound cannot travel in there. But yeah, I would be, I would be more than happy to stand corrected and learn from it. It's more from seeking perspective, not from questioning.
Yeah. I understand. Go ahead.
In the Panchabhutas, when we say space, right? So it includes everything where you just say completely, purely vacuum space, as well as space that is not completely, purely vacuum, right?
Right.
Everything is included in that Panchabhutas. Otherwise, then you don't have Panchabhuta, then you have one extra one that says space with vacuum, space without vacuum. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly correct. Yeah, I agree with what Chandrasekhar Mahoday is saying, that space is akasha, and even though it is void, the Shabda Tanmatra can travel through it. But what does the science say about it? Let me find out about it. I think I don't know what research you've read, but let me find out. Right? Is it aligned with what you're thinking? Is let me find out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. It's more from seeking perspective, Mahoday. So.
Yeah. Sure. Not a problem. I'll find out. Right.
Thank you, Mahoday.
Okay.
And thanks, Chandrasekhar Mahoday.
Yeah. Thank you both. So we can actually move on. Okay, Chandrasekhar Mahoday, do you want to take the next one?
Jala, liquid, was created after the luminous factor. Chitta assumed a cruder form. Water is a liquid and has taste and hence contains the rasa, taste tanmatra. Besides this, it has shabda, sparsha, and rupa tanmatras also. It is thus cruder than fire. That water has shabda tanmatra can be observed. I think Mahoday, the screen's changed. Thank you. The water has Shabda Tanmatra can be observed by performing a simple experiment. Someone speaks on the level of water from one bank and is heard on the other bank by an ear on the same level. Water can be touched and it has a form which can be seen. Hence it has 4 tanmatras: Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, and Rasa, and is cruder than the luminous factor. Water thus came into being after fire. So this is that continues on that progression of the manifestation. We are saying that the next one after fire is Jala, or in the Jala form. Now it has, in addition to the Shabda, Sparsha, and Rupa, now we add in Rasa Tanmatra, because it has the 4th one now. It's cruder than the luminous factor or than the cruder than the fire. And so this paragraph, it describes the progression and brings in the fourth of the Panchabhutas, the Jala Panchabhuta. Does that summarize?
Yes, Maurya, nicely said. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah. So this the fire or this after fire, now we have the Jala, right? Jala is comparatively cruder compared to the Agni Tattva because it also has the Rasa Tanmatra. It has the Shabda Sparsha Rupa and Rasa. Therefore, it's more cruder compared to the fire. Right? That is what this paragraph is. So I think it's clear. We can just go to the next one. Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to take the next one?
Bhagini. Shiti Tattva solid factor was formed after Jala Tattva. Chitta took the still cruder form of solid earth. In earth or Shiti, we find a new Tanmatra, Gandha, smell. In Shiti, we find all the 5 Tanmatras, Shabda sound, Sparsha touch, Rupa form, Rasa taste, and Gandha smell. Shita Tattva is thus cruder than the rest of the factors. Shita Tattva is Shabda Tanmatra, as we find sound traveling through many solids such as stones and metals. Solids can be touched, they have a definite shape and taste. Lastly, it is only a solid particle which has smell. Earth therefore has all the 5 Tanmatras. Earth or Shiti Tattva is therefore the crudest of all the factors and was created last of all. It is in this final stage of transformation from subtle to crude that Chitta finds itself manifested in its crudest form as a solid factor. So after all these 4 factors like Akash, Vayu, Agni and Jala, we have the Shiti Tattva, the solid factor, which has the 5 Tanmatras. In addition to the four Tanmatras, it has a 5th Tanmatra, the Gandha, in addition to the 4 Tanmatras which was found in the Jala or the water factor. So in this, without sound, we will not be able to we can find the sound in most of the metals and solids, and without the Vayu or the sound, we cannot be able to listen to, or listen to anything, or we cannot be able to communicate. Similarly, solids can be touched, they have a definite shape and size, and lastly, it is only the particles which has smell. So earth therefore all the 5 Tanmatras, or earth or Shiti Tattva is therefore the crudest of all the factors and was created last of all. In this final stage of transformation, that Chitta transfers himself into a crudest form and in the solid factor, and it is the Shiti Tattva which is the last of all. So this is told in this paragraph.
Yes, Bhagini, nicely said. Right. So finally, when the Tamoguna impacts the Chitta, due to the further increase of the pressure of the Tamoguna, the Kshiti Tattva gets formed after the Jala Tattva, and Kshiti Tattva, the solid factor, has 5 Tanmatras, Rupa Rasa Gandha Sparsha, and therefore it has 5 Tanmatras. Therefore, it is cruder compared to the Jala Tattva, right? So that is what this paragraph is talking about. So the next paragraph is little bit long, so we'll take it up in the next class. So Chandrasekhar Mahodaya, what is it you found on Google? Can you just summarize?
This is Chandramouli Mahodaya. Yep.
Chandramouli Mahodaya. I'm so sorry, I keep getting confused between the names.
No, both are Lord Shiva, so it's fine. Right. So Mahodaya, it's like, what I was trying to understand is, is the space completely, because the Akasha Tattva, right? My first question was, is Akasha and space the same? Are we referring to the same term, or is it different? Was the question that came to my mind. And because Akasha Tattva predominant, is the Shabda Tanmatra, that's where the question arises. If they both are same, and space is, predominantly a vacuum, which is what I was Googling, and that's what I found as well. So there are few matters, like hydrogen, helium, there is some matter. Vacuum is nothing but absence of matter. And there in space, it's vastly vacuum is what has been found, but there is some parts where there is matter. But if that's the case, then one of the inference that I am getting is Akasha and space could be two different things that we are referring to. I could be wrong, but this is the inference with the current data I have. So that's what I was inferring at. And sound definitely cannot travel in vacuum for sure. And then, so if that's the case, the inference as of now I am getting is Akasha Tattva, Akasha and the space are two different things that we are referring to. If that is the case, what part of space is Akasha is what I would like to explore further. If not, I'll stand corrected and improve my understanding. So that's where I am.
Okay. Sure. I'll find out and let you know. So
sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So then we'll end our session over here. Thank you so much. Dhanyawadaha. Namaskaraha.
Thank you. Dhanyawadaha. Namaskaraha.